Everybody, hi. How are you doing today? Hope everybody's well. Today I'm going to go over how to write a part 2 or task 2 Ielts essay from start to finish, and how I would approach writing. How I approach writing task 2 essays. Hopefully it'll be useful for you. Hopefully it will give you some ideas on, first of all, I suppose, approach to the question, also how to come up with ideas for answering, how to structure the question or response, and kind of the process, the ideal process to go through for writing one of these questions. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at one of the questions. So here we've got one I found sort of just online, but it's pretty good. So some people think it's better for children to grow up in the countryside, while others think that city living is more suitable. What are the advantages and disadvantages of both places? Okay, so it's sort of typical task 2 question. You have a statement, and then you need to discuss both sides of the argument. There are some questions, some Ielts task 2s, where you just have to talk about one or the other, the sides. But this is a classic one where you basically have to give a balanced answer. So what's the first thing to do? The first thing you need to do is consider how you're going to approach it. Now, you're going to write your introduction, you're going to write 2 body paragraphs, and you're going to write the conclusion. Okay. In the body paragraphs, you're going to talk about advantages and disadvantages, okay, of both places. Now, what's your approach going to be? Are you going to talk about the countryside first and talk about the advantages and disadvantages? Are you going to talk, and then are you going to talk about the city and talk about the advantages and the disadvantages? Or are you going to do a paragraph about advantages of both, and then a paragraph about disadvantages of both? So as usual in an Ielts task 2 essay, you have an option, right? The option is, do you take one approach or do you take the other approach? You need to write 2 paragraphs. In this case, you can write a paragraph 1 about countryside and paragraph 2 about city, or you can write paragraph 1 about advantages and paragraph 2 about disadvantages. I actually think both options are relevant. Both options are okay, depending what you prefer. Personally, I prefer to write a separate paragraph for each of the items in the question. So I'm going to start talking about countryside, and then my second body paragraph is going to be about the city. And within each paragraph, I'm going to talk about advantages and disadvantages of those places. To me, it's more logical, it's easier, and my brain can process it better that way. Now, first thing you need to do, okay, so when you have a question, you need to think, okay, advantages and disadvantages. So you need to brainstorm. Brainstorming is the first step. Okay, so let's brainstorm city. We're talking about children. Keywords, children. Okay, and other keywords, countryside and city. So these are the things that we need to focus on. So we're talking about children only. It's not just everybody, it's children. Let's talk about city advantages. Okay, what is the advantage of living in the city for a child? Okay, what do you think? I'm going to just brainstorm some random things. Okay, so greater access to education. Okay, so in the city, there are better schools, there are better universities, there are better academies and clubs and everything like that. What else is good for children in the city? More entertainment, venues, cinemas, theaters, maybe sports complexes, things for children to do. Anything else that's an advantage to living in the city for children? I don't know. I'm just coming up with ideas. I might use them. I might not use them. More friends. Okay, there are more people in the city, therefore, perhaps the child could make more friends. Fine. Okay, let's go in and brainstorm the disadvantages of living in the city for children. Remember, it's children, although some of these would apply to anybody. So disadvantage of living in a city for a child. Let's go with air pollution. Okay, air pollution, the air in the city is dirtier than the countryside. There are many studies which say that, air pollution inhibits brain development in children, IQ, health. Of course, we won't mention those in our Ielts answer, but I know personally that that's true. So I'm going to put that. What else? Lack of space for sports, for exercise, compared to the countryside. Okay. And I'm going to put that it's dangerous, more dangerous because, crime tends to be more crime in cities. Traffic can be dangerous to children. So that's my city brainstorm. And let's go on to countryside. So same process that I'm going to do. Okay, now you can do this actually in the exam. You can actually do this on note paper or whatever, or you can just get used to doing in your head. Okay, I recommend probably doing that. Looking at the question and quickly coming up with ideas. They have to be relevant ideas. They have to be, with some substance. Okay, they have to be, they have to have point behind them. Okay, countryside, advantages of countryside. What can we say about that? Well, sort of opposite really of the city, isn't it? So more open space. What else? Clean air. What else is good about living in the countryside for a child? More educational in some ways. Oops, my spelling. You can see animals, trees, forests, whatever. You can, kids can get in touch with nature. They can learn about the natural surroundings. Okay, which is great, which they can't do in the city. I'm just going to put freedom. They've got more freedom because of the other things we talked about. They're free from crime, or relatively more than in a city, of traffic and things. Okay, disadvantages. Remember, for a child, boring. Okay, maybe not so much to do. Anything else that's a disadvantage of living in the countryside? Lack of access to, let's say, healthcare, for example. I mean, it's not a big deal, but we can make an argument, that says that. Anything else? Maybe lack of stimulation, mental stimulation. Okay, it's a little bit boring, it's slow, there's not much going on. There's a lot of old people that tend to live there. Maybe there isn't much to kind of stimulate a child's mind, keep them interested. So you can see that, this is my first step is brainstorming, yeah? Brainstorming my concept, my ideas, right? And then you can see that all of the ideas are sort of related, Now, what I want to do is I want to put 2 of these in each paragraph. Okay, or I think that's the way I'm going to go. Okay, so I've decided to talk about countryside first. So in fact, I might just choose one of each. I think I'll probably just choose one advantage, one disadvantage for each. So there I've got 2 points in each paragraph. Okay. So that's the way I'm going to go. I'm not going to decide which ones right now. I'll decide that after I've written my introduction. Okay, so let's talk about the introduction. Introduction, what do we need to do? We have the question here. Remember, guys, what's the introduction? It's a paraphrase of this question. Okay, you need to paraphrase this using synonyms, rewriting, rephrasing. Okay, so some people think it is better for children to grow up in the countryside, while others think that city living is more suitable. How can we, actually, I'm going to copy this, put it down here so we can see it. How can we paraphrase this? So I'm going to go with it is often, it's often said that that rural areas, instead of countryside, are more appropriate for raising children than cities. Okay. In this essay, I will discuss both sides and give my opinion. Okay, so I think for me that's probably enough of an introduction. It is often said that rural areas, so instead of countryside, we're saying rural areas. Instead of saying some people think, we're saying it is often said. Instead of saying it's better, we're saying it's more appropriate. Instead of saying city living, we're just saying cities. We haven't really made a comparison about, while others think, but that's okay. We can, if you want to, we could say what, but others believe, others believe urban areas to be superior. Something like that. We'll leave it in for now. Maybe it's not necessary, but if you want to, you can sort of flesh it out and make it a bit longer. I kind of prefer to keep more words for the body. Okay, let's move on. So that's our introduction. Let's stick it down here. That's our introduction, which we paraphrase the question. Okay. Then we move on to our first body paragraph. First body paragraph, we're talking about countryside. Just because in the question it talks about countryside first, we're going to talk about countryside, and we're going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of the countryside. So first of all, let's just start with, there are a lot of advantages to raising children in the countryside. Okay, topic sentence. That's our paragraph is going to be about raising children in the countryside. Okay, first of all, what do we say? There's more open space. First of all, there is more open space, which allows children to play and exercise freely. We could add more information. We could say which is essential for the development of their physical, or their bodies and their minds and their bodies, or something like that. Let's see if we need more words later. If we don't have enough words, if we are under 250, we'll come back and add it. Let's just go for the main points first. So there are a lot of advantages to raising children in the countryside. First of all, there is more open space, which allows children to play and exercise freely. Secondly, I'm going to choose this one. Okay, educational, I think. Why not? Yeah. Secondly, living in rural. I'm going to change it from countryside to rural areas again. Okay, I'm going to have a variety of vocabulary. Living in rural areas allows children. Oh, I've got allows already. I'm going to change that. Okay, living in rural areas means children can learn about the great outdoors and nature. This is crucial to their educational development. Okay. Okay, let's move on and talk about the disadvantages. There are, however, disadvantages to living in the countryside. Which ones shall we put? Let's make another line here. Disadvantages: boring, lack of access to healthcare. Like I said, okay, so children or young people, let's just do young people again, may find a countryside, may find rural living to be boring, as there is little stimulation to interest them. There is also, well, there can also be, remember, sometimes you have to hedge what you're saying. You can't, if there is, we don't know. I mean, sometimes there is some rural areas there is, and some rural areas there isn't. We can't say that they all have this or they all don't have this. We have to hedge. There can be limited health infrastructure in rural areas, meaning if children have health issues, they may lack treatment options, for example. Okay. So what my approach was to talk about countryside first, and then within that paragraph to talk about advantages first, and then disadvantages. Okay, that's my approach. You can, like I said before, you could have a paragraph talking about advantages, and then within that you could compare countryside and city, and then a second paragraph disadvantages, and you can compare that. I think for me it's easier to put it together this way. Okay, so let's move on to our second paragraph about cities. There are also not advantages, let's choose a different word. There are also positives to bringing, sorry, my spelling's bad, bringing up children in urban areas. So what are we going to choose? Urban area. Let's go. Advantages: greater access to education, more entertainment venues. Well, I can't choose a greater access to education. Not really, because I already talked about how education in the countryside is good. It's a bit strange to say that it's good in both places. So I'm going to choose something different. And this is the benefit of having, when you brainstorm, having more than 2 options to choose from. You know, if you have 3, 4 options to choose from, then you can kind of play with them. Like this one, I already used this one, so let's use this one instead. Or, you know, that kind of thing. So you're not stuck with just using the 2 options that you came up with. You have some choice. So I'm going to choose this one: entertainment venues and more friends. Yeah. In cities, there is generally, not always, a greater selection of entertainment venues available. Children can spend their rogue comma, their time there learning and having fun, and let's leave it there. Clearly, there are more people in urban areas, so children will be more likely to find like-minded friends amongst this population. Will be more likely. Okay. Of course, there are also negatives to living in cities. One of the biggest problems, is what we're going to choose from the problem. Disadvantages: dangerous. Okay, let's go with that. Is higher crime rates than in rural areas, so children may become victims. Okay, let's just leave it. May become victims. As well as this, what else can we say? As well as this, the air. Let's go with air pollution. As well as this, air quality in cities tends to be much worse and may negatively affect children's health when, let's just say, when playing outside. Okay, so those are our 2 body paragraphs. Let's just quickly look at the construction. We've got the topic sentences, and then for each one I've got kind of two positives and 2 negatives. Okay, so 2 positives for countryside, 2 negatives. And again, 2 positives for urban areas and 2 negatives. Then we need a quick conclusion. Okay, so what am I going to say? What's my opinion? What do I think? Which one's better? And again, and you know, when you do the Ielts test, guys, it doesn't really matter what you think, and it doesn't matter what you conclude. It doesn't matter what you say at the end. It really doesn't matter. Okay, you can say cities are better. You can say countryside's better. It doesn't matter. All right, as long as your writing is good, clear, the English is good, the construction is, you know, correct. Doesn't matter. But I'm going to say that overall cities are better. Okay, why not? So overall, I believe, oops, terrible spelling. Cities are better for raising children than rural areas. There is more to do and greater access to education and healthcare. And that's it. Okay. And greater access to education and healthcare than in the countryside. Okay, I'm done. That's my essay. Let's do a word count quickly. Make sure we're in the 263 we are, which is a good length. Okay, I'm happy with that. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you. That was my approach to a task 2 writing assignment. My approach is pretty much the same every time. Look at the question, find the keywords, understand what it's asking you to do. Brainstorm, paraphrase the question in the introduction, construct your body paragraphs from the ideas that you brainstormed. Make sure you have a clear topic sentence for both. Use a variety of vocabulary and variety of constructions and phrases, and then you know, have a little conclusion with your opinion. Which side do you prefer? Do you take the city side or the countryside side? All right. Okay, guys, great. So hopefully that's been useful for you. Okay, and thank you very much for watching. I'll be back soon with another sort of run through. Maybe I'll go with a task 1 next time. You can see how I approached that. All right, guys, brilliant. Thanks very much. I will see you soon. Bye.